Hello, I'm Daniel Weiss, your host, and you are listening to my podcast where my guests and I focus on topics of nutrition, active lifestyle for health and performance. No fat, guaranteed. If you are new to this podcast, I hope you will enjoy it, and if you are a returning listener, visitor, please make sure to rate the podcast on Stitcher or iTunes, as it will help me to grow our community and get interesting guests and introduce interesting topics in future episodes. You are also welcome to join my Facebook group, which is linked in the show notes. So hello and welcome to all the listeners, and today I have an amazing person. It's actually Yancy Culp joining me today. Hello Yancy, how are you?
Daniel, hey buddy, thank you guys for having me on, my friend.
Yeah, it's a really great time to have you here, and I really appreciate that you found time to do it with me today, because you are the kind of person that, your name pops up every time I do or anybody does a Google search regarding OCR training. So you are kind of legend in this field, right?
I tell you what, I feel unbelievably blessed to be knee deep in this last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, depending on who you're talking to. The rapid growth of what I consider, and I would argue with this with anybody, what I would consider the largest fitness movement the world has ever seen. That's literally how I look at OCR. And it's kind of like I compare it to, I've got friends that are, in their 60s, and they talk about, back in the 70s, when the triathlon movement just really started booming, and it was fun to be knee deep in that growth. Well, we're all living in this growth period of OCR where, here in the States, it's wildly popular. We have, so many different brands, and it's a roller coaster ride with the, you have, we just had a recent announcement with Tough Mudder. They're making some moves to kind of clean things up on their end. But long story short, all over our country and all over the world, you have this movement with millions of people. Now, when I say the largest fitness movement the world's ever seen, I say that because that's exactly what's going on. You and I walking into a gym 10 years ago, we would walk into that gym to maybe shed a few pounds, maybe put on some lean muscle mass, maybe look a little better in the bathing suit. Right. If you weren't playing collegiate or professional sports or high school sports, those were the basic reasons you would walk into a gym. Now, people are walking into gyms all over the planet to get in better physical condition for an obstacle course race. So it's been an amazing movement that's kind of swept across our globe, and it's a ton of fun to be involved in it, buddy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you actually, as far as I know, you got into OCR like in 2011. That was like very start of Spartan race, right?
2011. My very first race was a Warrior Dash, and which is the simplest, easiest obstacle course race on the planet. But like so many others, I was, high school and college. I'd run track in college, and I've been running my whole life, and I was still in great shape. But I walked up to this obstacle course, nail-biting nervous, didn't know what the heck to expect. My second race was a Spartan sprint. And this is going to sound hilarious. My second, I did everything. I always say I did it backwards. My second race was the very first Ultra Beast in Vermont. And my third race was a 72-hour death race. So in a matter of a relatively short period of time, I bookended the extreme bookends of OCR, the easy Warrior Dash, that's still a phenomenal race for newcomers. And on the other end of the spectrum, the 72 hours, I did 72-hour Spartan death race. So it was, I just dove in, man, and did as many races as I could possibly do. I was a geeked out 40-year-old, now 47-year-old, just geeked out 40-year-old that was literally felt like a kid back on the 600-acre ranch that I grew up on, just running through the woods. I mean, that's what it allows us to be kids again as adults. And I mean, it's hard for me to believe, and I know a lot of people that will listen to this, and you probably agree with the same thing. It's hard to imagine life before OCR, as far as, I mean, if I wanted to go out and do something on a weekend, I could sign up for a 5K or maybe a half marathon or a marathon, or, I could go do a triathlon. But as far as participatory sports, there just wasn't much out there, so this was a game changer, man. Really cool game changer for all of us across the planet.
Yeah, that's right. Why do you think that specifically OCR is such a movement? Because like you mentioned, we have like just running, a lot of people enjoy running, a lot of people enjoy triathlons and different kinds of sports, but OCR seems to be booming right now.
So here's the deal with that. This is my philosophy on why, because people ask me all the time, why has it had success, and why are millions and millions of people across the world doing it? And I'm a firm believer, and this pretty much isn't debatable either. I mean, if you and I went out and did a 5K this morning, Sunday morning, we went out and did our local 5K or the local half marathon, or even the local, Olympic distance triathlon for that matter. Really and truly, and then we roll into work the next day, and we did the 5K together with you and I did it, and we roll into work together the next day. There's not a lot to talk about. There wasn't a lot that went on. We went out, we trained, and we ran that 5K down through our town. When you and I go do an obstacle course race together, and when I say you and I together, 99% of people are racing. They're racing as an open category racer. They're not fighting for a podium.
Right.
You and I go out there together as these open category racers, and we are we completely turn ourselves inside out. We conquered 30 obstacles, and maybe 5 of them kick our butt. We met all these other people out there that are nail-bite nervous in the corral, and then afterwards in the festival, and it's like this rapid machine gun fire of stories. I mean, that day after the race, all these stories are going, oh my God, that one obstacle, I love that new obstacle. That one obstacle was kicking my butt. I got it for the first time today. I've been hitting the gym really hard, working on my grip strength, and I finally conquered the monkey bars. So around the water cooler on Monday, there's tons of stories, and everybody in the office is like, they're looking over, you've got your shins are skinned up, you got your elbows bloodied, and you just loved it. And so it's the stories. It's the, I mean, if you and I do a 5K tomorrow, what are we going to post about on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter? I ran a 5K. If you and I mean, we want to post our 67 pictures of ourselves in the barbed wire crawl, pictures with our friends and family out there that we drug to the race. And, so it's just it's a whole different movement as far as the experience that it provides. Now, logistically, it's challenging. I know Joe DeCenter really well, for example, and I know, I'll use Spartan. It's logistically, it's very challenging to make it successful. It's very expensive to put on races. The type of spectacle and experience that Spartan provides for you, for example, or a Tough Mudder, or overseas when you look at a rat race, or you look at Toughest over there. I mean, it's an amazing experience. And, you need a lot of people for it to be profitable. And, now it's great that we've been around for so long, and you're having enough businesses that are seeing some profit. So I think we're here to stay. And that's huge for me, man. I've got kids that are excited, that my 8 and 12-year-old, they're excited to be racing eventually. And it's just it's a really neat movement. I've been able to do some stuff with some high school events where high schoolers are just falling in love with the sport. So I think it's a really cool movement that's here to stay, man. And I'll stand by my word. it's arguably the largest fitness movement the world's ever seen.
I fully agree, and I actually saw a document. I think they made it some guys from UK, and they did a document on obstacle course racing in general. Like, why is it so great for people? Why people love it? And it's exactly like you mentioned. On top of that, it's like it brings people, from chairs and to move, because we are like animals. We have this desire to move, even though that some of us don't really feel like that. But once we start moving, we get all these hormones, all the high from exercise, and yeah, like you mentioned, overcoming yourself and having all this amazing experience and sharing it with coworkers maybe, and with friends, racing as a team members.
So
it creates all this whole different kind of experience compared to running, like you mentioned.
You're exactly right. So let's look at two of the largest fitness movements the world's ever seen: OCR and CrossFit. So when you look at, if you walk past a corral, the men's elite and the female elite in an OCR race, let's take a Spartan race for example, because that's the biggest one over here. Those are awesome looking athletes, and compare it to the starting corral in the marathon. Look at the difference. And what I'm getting at here when I say this, the largest fitness movement, it's not only is it a large fitness movement, I think it's, like you touched upon, it's a very productive fitness movement for the health of this nation, because, let's look at a Ryan Atkins. I train Ryan Kent. We'll use Ryan Kent, and I get to work with Ray Coble, two athletes that I get to work with through Yancy Camp, Rose Wetzel and other Matt Novakovic and Glenn Race and others. So let's look at those guys. When you
since you also mentioned CrossFit, you can also mention Dakota Rager, no?
Yeah, and so you look at those athletes. I mean, they have to pick up heavy stuff and carry it out on course. They have to traverse obstacles using upper body strength. They got to crawl for 5 minutes under barbed wire. They got to get over walls, and they have to do the same thing that marathoner has to do. They got to run a long duration. But when you throw in all those functional fitness stations, the simple way to look at it is functional fitness stations. You have to have strength way beyond what you have to have, before OCR and before CrossFit. When you look at triathlons and running, those are the two very popular participatory sports. You did not have to have what you have to have in OCR. You've got to be able, you're 6 miles into a race and you got to pick up 100-pound Atlas ball and carry it. And you have to carry a 60-pound sandbag up a black diamond ski slope. You've got to traverse across this rope that's across this lake, and you're hanging upside down. So you got to have strong back and bicep muscles and shoulder muscles, and so it's really a fitness movement that's changed the world of, kind of given that word that's overused somewhat, functional fitness. It's really defined. OCR defines that. These are for lack of better terms, they're good looking, physically gifted looking athletes. But on the other side, like I said, 99% of athletes aren't racing in that elite heat. The open category people, the same thing's happening with them. They realize that I can't just go get on the treadmill in the gym and I can't get ready for an OCR like that. I've got to work in all this specific strength training. So there's a lot more. There's millions of newfound functional athletes across the planet because of OCR. That's really not debatable, and that's a fact, and that's a really cool fact if you ask me.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I also love running, but how I got to the OCR is, like you mentioned, it's like well-rounded fitness that I believe is much more healthy than just being a runner, for example, or just a cyclist. These are very one-sided sports, and OCR provides you with all these different challenges that allow you to develop yourself in all the different planes of movement and different types, like strength, endurance, and being just a healthy living human being.
Oh yeah, anybody that loves anybody that loves exercise physiology, if you took a panel of the top 10 exercise physiologists on the planet, like Dr. Ivy for a second. I mean, he's the dean of that department at UT, professor emeritus at UT. If they could just fly around over the top of that race and watch every single thing that goes on, you nailed it. Every plane of motion is constantly being used. Every muscle group, multiple joint movements required, extreme balance, hand-eye coordination, the neuromuscular system. Everything in the world of exercise physiology is being tested unlike anything that's ever, before OCR, we kind of looked at, we would say a decathlete was probably the greatest athlete on the planet. That was kind of always the standing argument. But I would argue, when I look at athletes like the top, let's look at the top 20 male and female athletes in the world of OCR. I would make a case that that's where we would find. I don't coach him. I work with him through Human. We're on the Human team together, and we're good friends. I would argue that Ryan Atkins is the greatest male athlete on the planet. And without OCR, we would have never known that. You could also argue that somebody like a Hunter McIntyre, or John Albin, Lindsay Webster, and the other couple top females. I could make a Rhea Coble, for example, who can race a short OCR and then a week later go win the 24-hour races. The Rheas and the Lindsays and those types, and the Ryans and the Hunters and the Johns and all these athletes, these top 5 or 10 males and females. I mean, where's the debate that they don't belong in the argument as being possibly the greatest athletes on the planet? I really feel they do.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And now that you mentioned all these great athletes basically that you work with or you team up with, it's like basically also what you allow people to join them in their training and to experience the training. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about training for OCR and how can people benefit from joining also your Yancy Camp.
So true story about Yancy Camp. I was coaching. I had about 20, I think about 18 to 20 full-time athletes that I was coaching, high-level athletes in the sport of OCR. And as a coach, and every coach out there would agree with me, at a certain point, you can't keep taking on full-time clients. You're going to dilute yourself to where you're just not going to have the necessary time to spend. So right. Okay, I don't want to have to tell people no. So I created yancycamp.com, and I put originally I put 8 of those athletes that I coach full time. I put them on the program and it allowed people from all over the world. We have athletes in over 18 countries, 18 plus countries, hundreds and hundreds of athletes all over the world that were immediately able to now team up with that athlete. So it became a team. Me, the pro level athlete, and that maybe that open category or competitive or elite that's looking to, improve their performance. And what they receive is they get to receive a minimum of 3 of the same workouts that athlete sees each week. They're all written in a way that allows them to be easily scaled down. There's an online fitness testing program. There's a closed forum on Facebook that we're on. All kinds of cool stuff, an exercise library. But for a very inexpensive rate, now lots of people were able to have a little more structure in their training. As you know, as an OCR veteran yourself, it's much more broad than training you for the 1500 or a 5K. It's just there's so much. I kind of look at there's about 5 pillars that are extremely important in the world of OCR. We look at running, we look at climbing, we look at carrying heavy stuff, we look at OCR specific strength training, specifically looking at things like grip and pull strength endurance. And then another big pillar is the ability to tie those together and create the bodies where the body can assimilate and kind of acclimate to when I'm presented with all that out on course. So in every one of those pillars that I just mentioned, everybody has a ceiling. The running ceiling might be here. Their ability to climb a mountain might be here. Get on the treadmill and incline. Their ability to do pull-ups and hang on a bar. They have all these ceilings. Well, look at all the amazing factors. If we can improve ourselves 5% in every one of those, with every one of those pillars, we're going to be better out on course. But now throw in the fact that every race brand presents something a little different. One Spartan might be on the side of a mountain. One Spartan might be on flat ground. A Spartan overseas, you have different things. So long story short, all these different race brands that we love throw something a little different at us. And even that same brand throws a lot of different stuff at us. So there's no such thing as black and white in OCR from the athlete perspective, the brand perspective, or the coaching perspective. And for me, as a coach for many years prior and as an athlete prior to OCR, I think it's the coolest conversation to talk about, because in most sports, there's a lot of black and white. It's a 100-yard field. These are the rules. It's going to be the exact same experience every time. You know what to expect for the most part. It's a 400-meter track. It's very standardized across the board. Man, we know that that's not the case in OCR. And things like we talk about training, like taking a nonlinear training approach. I mean, it's almost a necessity. It's not a necessity, but for me, I love taking that nonlinear approach and seeing how athletes respond. And of course, every 2 months, the race brands will throw something new at us, like, oh, we're adding a new series here, or the mountain series at Spartan last year. And it's like, go ahead.
So, yeah, let me just stop you right there. Like, when we speak about nonlinear training approach, let's speak about this a little bit, what it means, because I don't think it will be obvious for everybody.
Well, the pillars, like with Yancy Camp, what I do when I design every single workout, there's a couple key things that I focus on, and I think it plays a role in why I've been able to have a level of success. Is I'm very, very, especially in OCR, I believe, actually all sports for this matter, I believe that we need to be an artist as a coach. You've got to be an artist, just like putting paint on the canvas, just like typing beautiful words when you're writing a book. You've got to be an artist, or playing music. And I think OCR allows us as a coach to be very artistic with the way we create and build workouts. Now, with that in mind, you've got to have two very key things that you always focus on. You got to keep the science. You have to keep science in mind always, exercise physiology, science in mind. And you have to remember those pillars of OCR. If you log in, I'm getting ready to launch workout 582, the 582nd workout since Yancy Camp launched. I will launch that tonight. So people all over the globe will pull that up tomorrow morning and get ready to head to the gym. I've got to make sure throughout the course of, a 3 or 4 month period that we're focusing on those pillars that I talked about, those important pillars with OCR. Am I helping you raise your ceiling in every single one of those areas? And if that's the case, it doesn't matter if you are a top elite or you're an open category that just dreams of maybe running a clean race one day and not failing any obstacles, or dreams about completing that rig one day. No matter what, you're going to benefit. Every athlete on both ends of the spectrum. So those are the key things. Be artistic. I pride myself on being as artistic as I can with workout creation. I pride myself on, making sure that I'm helping you increase your ceiling. So you're going to be a little better. It translates out on course. And I make sure that the workouts make sense if we were to look at the science of the workouts. I'm not just out there saying, I just want to turn you. I just want to crush you. Let's just go. I'm going to hammer you. I'm going to go beast mode and crush you. That's not what it's all about. I really work hard to promote adequate rest and recovery. I've learned more times than not, I'm trying to scale people down versus crank them up, put a little more direction. and make sure they're getting adequate rest and not make sure they're not overtraining. And there's just when you only have an hour a day, a lot of people, sometimes 10 people less than that, and they may only have 3 or 4 days a week with that hour or less. I just want that time to be very, very purposeful. And every minute I want it to translate for you when you go out. You've signed up for that race. I want my workouts to translate out on course for you. And they have been. The common feedback that I get is we have so many more athletes that are completing more obstacles. They're transitioning faster between obstacles. They're running clean races. And that's just that's extremely rewarding for me, mainly for the open categories. I mean, the people that are just they love the sport. You know what? They have a competitive aspect in their mind, just like the top elites. They want to do better. They like seeing their times improve year over year, and their workouts improve. So it's been a ton of fun, man. I get geeked up excited that I get to have contact with so many people from different countries and get to work with them and help them improve their performance in this awesome sport of OCR.
Well, I can very well hear that you have all this passion for it and that you get high from the success of your athlete, and it's great. So when it comes to training, do you also provide like a periodization of the training, or are you more like let's say supporting all year fitness?
Yeah, when we look at basic periodization, micro, meso, and macro cycles, the basic three. I think OCR changed the game a little bit, and here's why. We were in it. I'll give you some real life scenarios. Let's take the top level athletes down to the open category and everybody in between. So basically,
Amazing.
We have this situation where a lot of athletes are trying to get to themselves financially where they can train and race full time. So once that's the case, that means, okay, we're not training for world championships and, in the, national championships in the 1500 meters in track and field, or this race or that race, or for the Olympics. We're training to build a brand and to make money in the sport. So that means I need to go out and race a lot. There's a really short off season in OCR. The races have already kicked back up, and a lot of the elites are already out there racing. So, the periodization is unique. I think I find myself really taking a non-linear approach versus a true linear approach, which is a little more when everything is black and white, and we're training for the spot at the end of the year, this performance, I don't know. Non-linear has worked better for me, and there's no perfect science with that. But I find myself working through a lot of short mesocycles. For example, let's take the U.S. Championship Series for Spartan. Every month we have this big race, so we literally dive into after the race. We dive into like a 3-week mesocycle, and then we're tapering for a week, and then we're doing it all over again. And we can't. So think about that for a second. When those are 5 or 6 really important races leading up to Worlds, and again, I'm speaking from the elite perspective right now, but it's the same for the Open. Really and truly, I can't devote a 2-month training cycle on just working this one aspect, base, for example, and where they're going to actually lose. We're gonna completely step away from all these pillars of performance that are important out on course. We can't step away from that. We've got to stay somewhat sharp. So you're literally looking at lots of mesocycles, and I'm not ever leaving anything out, which is kind of, as far as a kindergarten definition, that's kind of the definition of non-linear periodization. I'm not ever leaving anything out. Even during the weekly perspective, I'm not going to say, we're just going to completely lay off of this or that. I'm going to work enough in to keep it where you kind of maintain where you're at. And then sometimes I'll focus in more on maybe really dialing in heavy carries and a little more focus here on this or that, but never stepping away from certain things. And I really think OCR kind of changed the game. So did CrossFit, So you have to be good at so much in both of those, the OCR and CrossFit, you look at, I think it actually took time for traditional. Okay. I think it took time for traditional coaches to realize that, okay, this whole CrossFit OCR thing kind of changed the game. And it is, I mean, for lack of better terms, OCR kind of builds cyborg type athletes. I mean, they're literally cyborgs. They just can do so much for so long. They're very well rounded. And I know there's a difference in like a CrossFit athlete and an OCR athlete, but the CrossFit athletes are going to be a little stronger. OCR athletes going to have a little more endurance, but there's a lot of similarities in the fact that they're so well rounded in the world of just epic functional fitness.
Right. And so what about for the open weight?
So the open wave, the cool part about it is if you're doing the exact workout that Ryan Kent's doing, and it's written in a way that's makes it easy to scale down, which is what a lot of my clients do, but you're getting to do the same thing. And of course, you're not running as fast. You're not climbing as fast. You're not carrying as much weight. You're not lifting as much weight on the OCR specific strength training. But let me tell you, when you walk into that gym for 45 minutes, you're getting the same level of productive structure to your time. Ryan just may be out there, on the side of the, in his gym for 2.5, 3 hours today, or an hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the evening. And same with Rhea or Rose or any of the other people on the roster. Some of my ultra athletes like Allison, Morgan, Miguel Medina, and Chris Mendoza, they may be spending 4 or 5 times as much time as you are, but in some cases they're doing it full time. There's a large percentage of athletes that are actually training racing full time. So the open category athlete doesn't have that time. They got wife and kids and our husband and kids and the full-time job and all the stuff going on. And OCR kind of is a hobby for them, but they want to improve. You get to have more structure when you go. That 45 minutes is gonna be very, very productive time for you. And I think why OCR coaching we've had a level of success, the ones that really enjoyed it, is because there needs to be more structure. You have to have more. You got to accomplish more in that 45 minutes than you did in the past when you were just training for a 5K or just trying to look a little better in a bathing suit or lose a few pounds. So for the open category athlete, where they benefit is, like I said, what brings tears to my eyes way more than like Ryan Kent having the best race of his life last year at World Championships and finishing 6th place at Worlds. I mean, what brings tears to my eyes more than any of the elite stuff is when I get a call or a private message or somebody posts on social media. One of two things: I ran my first clean race, or oh my gosh, I climbed up the rope. I rang the bell on the rope climb for the first time in my life, or I finished the monkey bars, or I never had to drop my sandbag and stop during my heavy carry, or I actually ran I never had to walk a single time during that Spartan sprint. Those kind of things put tears in my eyes because that's the movement. The elite standing on the podium, that's amazing. We need that. It's great for the growth of the sport. But the movement is, like you said earlier, man, it's pulling people off the couch. And we are a more healthy world. Every country's more healthy, and our planet as a whole is a little more healthy because of OCR. That's not debatable, and that's really freaking cool. And that's because of all the open category, the millions of people that make up that open category of athletes. So, yeah, man, you're not going to find a person on the planet that gets more geeked up and passionate about what the OCR movement has done for us.
Yeah, and you are very passionate, like from what we are speaking about. Also, what I know about you is about really fitness, improving not only performance but like personal life of people. And like you see, the movement is created by the people who have families. They do it they do OCR as a hobby, and they just want to get more healthier. And yeah, go ahead.
Man, you hit on one of my favorite one of my favorite topics. With Yancy Camp, before every single workout, I post what I call my mental and motivational conditioning blog. And I really try to push what you were talking about there, the importance of the mental health, the mental conditioning, the community. And I always tell my clients that the mental conditioning is 51% and the physical conditioning is 49%. No matter what, I always want the mental conditioning to weigh a little more heavy, because that is, you know, the OCR community, I've learned, has been, it might be, of course, pulling people off the couch is wonderful. The mental side that it's brought, the number of, just the sheer number of friendships and community that have been created through the sport of OCR is amazing. No, people love the big numbers of groups that go out and do this, but I really put a lot of stress on, it's literally, it puts me in a more peaceful place. I really try to push the mental conditioning and so all the strategies that, the self-help stuff is very popular now, and it's easier for us to accomplish more in that world because it's easier for us to communicate with each other and love and serve on each other because we have a broad reach. Like, I may never meet you in person, but we can have a conversation much easier than it was. We can get on a podcast and talk about this. It's so much more easy to connect with people. But I post that mental and motivational conditioning blog to get in my clients' heads first, with trying to help them, what I call, dominate the day. And I literally want you to be in a better place to light up the planet today. And together, we're gonna lean on each other, and we are going to, when we put our head on the pillow tonight, we are going to say, I had a better day today. I was present and in the moment, and I really pinched the life out of every second today. And there's no perfect scenario there, but it gets better and better every single day. And that's so much, in a nutshell, in a 30-second elevator pitch, that's what my motivational and mental and motivational blog, pre-workout blogs are all about, is about helping you and I and all the other clients out there have a little better day today. And that's my way of leaning on all of you guys out there, because I love putting this stuff together. It serves me as much as it serves anybody else out there. So, and you know what? It's funny. The first year I didn't do that, and then I posted a few of them, and I started getting lots of feedback. And now I can't post a workout with either having a video. I'll video myself talking to my clients about the mental subject of the day, or I'll type up a blog. But it's a big piece for me there. I probably got us a little off track, but you brought up something that kind of got me thinking about that. So I apologize for getting us off track.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, man, it's there's a key component to all this, and it's, I am a firm believer that the mental side of it is very, very important. And if we have people that have a larger network, I think we could argue that everybody that's involved in OCR, their network has grown. Every year that they race, their network grows. I know so many people that I had no clue who they were. Really amazing, gracious people who I could call right now while I'm on this podcast and say, I need you to do this for me, or I need something really bad, or I'm in a bind, I'm in a pinch. I literally have hundreds of additional people that would drop what they were doing and help me. And it's important for them to know that I want to be that person for them as well. And the movement of OCR created that, man. It created that. I mean, every Thursday, Friday night of every weekend of the year across this globe of ours, there are people sharing hotels and Airbnbs, and they're going out to dinner together, and they're getting up the next day and racing. And then they're sharing stories together and going out and sharing a beer that night on a Saturday night. That's so ridiculously cool, man, that OCR OCR did that. And so, yeah, all of our networks grew. Our accountability partners, I talk about that a lot. We have a lot more accountability partners in our life that along with just the sport of OCR, that help us stay more mentally and physically fit. So I think that you could talk about, we could sit down with a shrink and he or she would probably say, yeah, you've probably lowered the depression rates. You've probably lowered suicide rates. I mean, just as a whole, there's so much amazing stuff that's going on because of this awesome movement. And the fact that you and I get to be a tiny little piece of it, man, super cool.
Yeah, that's right. And I really love this way of approaching or looking at the things that everything is interconnected, everything is connected to everything, and like sports OCR is connected to how you feel that day is connected to what kind of choices when it makes to your nutrition choices, when it comes to your how you behave towards people around you, how you lead your day. It is all influenced by each other. And like you mentioned, community is amazing from these people. I just had this week a friend who I met at Spartan Race actually came here, staying in my flat for 3 nights because he was in the city and he was looking for a place where to sleep. So he stayed here for 3 nights, and I mean, yeah, that was a guy who I met through Spartan Race. So yeah, community is very important.
Yeah, it's we have another avenue. I mean, I know you've done it. I have. We got the hook. 2011, I did my first race and dove into the sport. At one point in time, you did your first race. We were nervous. Now we love it, and now we have this avenue to try to pull people. Like, we talk people into going out and racing. I talked my wife into doing her first race last year, and that's how it happens. The crazy part about it is, I don't know, 8 to 10 million people have done an OCR, but 1/10 of 1%, 99.9% of the world doesn't even hardly know what it is and has never done it. So there's so much room for epic growth, and it really is. It gives us an avenue to really go out. I don't care if heck, my wife and I, we took our time out there. Her sister was with us. We had a few other people with us, and we just took our time and literally we bonded as a family out there on that course. We didn't care what our time was. We helped each other over obstacles. I was teaching them about the obstacles. It took us several freaking 3 or 4 hours to do a sprint because we took our time. But it was we probably had some of the greatest conversation we had ever had in our life, knee deep in the middle of a Texas forest on the side of hills in the mud. We literally bonded as a family. Now you just can't put a value on, you can't grade the value that has. And that's exactly what's happened across the global OCR community that we call it. So it's good stuff, man. Every podcast I get on ends up going way too long because I freaking want to talk about it for like 3 hours. I get so passionate about it, man. I'm glad it happened before I got too old. I know the day will come when eventually one of the things when we talked about the coaching aspect, this is really, as an OCR coach, I saw that it was wildly important to go out and do as many races as I could. The shortest races, the longest races, everything in between. When TMX came up, I went and did TMX. I knew I wouldn't do that well, but I wanted to feel what the athlete was going to feel. And when I go do OCR World Championships and I do, like I said, long and short stuff and different race brands, because, if I'm coaching somebody, I wouldn't be as good of an OCR coach if I would have just taken my running background of running in high school and college and being a running coach leading up to OCR. If I had never participated, man, there's some of the specific workouts I create is because I know what I'm thinking back to exactly what my body went through when I was in that same situation that all my clients are going to go through. I understand what it's like to try to tackle 17 freaking grip strength obstacles at a ridiculously high heart rate. and that's one of 10 scenarios we could paint, but that's a very real life scenario. I know how to create better workouts because of that. I know what it's like to carry a 60-pound sandbag up a black diamond ski slope at a high heart rate, and how nutrition and hydration changes, and dealing with different types of terrain and all the stuff, and how certain brands have different types of obstacles and whatnot. So, it's important as a coach for me to race. I'm going to race as long as I can, just so I keep my mind sharp on what my clients are having to deal with.
Right. So you go into the trenches, you experience it yourself, and then you are able to create the workouts that are specific for the needs and demands of the race. That's perfect. So what would you say? Because I believe this is a question that many starting people have, like people who want to start and maybe they are afraid or don't know where to put their effort, money, energy. Like, what do you suppose is the best kind of equipment that you can invest in if you had like limited budget?
No, it's a great question. Statistically speaking, I've learned that probably 75%, give or take, of my members, Yancy Camp members, have a gym, and that answers the question, a lot of the question, if you have a gym. But about 25% don't have a gym, and some of those 75% that have a gym also like to have their own home gym. So really and truly, it's an important question for 100% of the people. I think a couple things. Let's try to narrow it down to the three or four most important pieces of equipment that you need. Number one, you have to have an area. You have to have the ability to run, walk, jog, or do some type of aerobic conditioning. You've got to have the ability to do that. Now, as far as fitness equipment concerned, OCR-specific strength training that would allow you to accomplish OCR-specific strength training. If I could say you can only have two things, you gotta have the ability to do some suspension, grip and pull strength work, where your body is suspended. So a simple pull-up bar, a simple way to, you got to have a pull-up bar or at your home, and you need, I would say, some type of sandbag. Like a sand disc, a sand bell, not like an actual lifting bag, but one that allows you to actually manipulate with your grip. Sand discs, sand bells, those are two staples. You got to be able to work. I'll work a pull-up bar with my clients 15 different ways. It's so much more than just doing pull-ups. I'll literally I'll turn it into a rig. You'll almost feel like you've gone through a rig, and all you have is a pull-up bar with the various things that I'll throw in the workouts. And I, of course, I provide exercise videos for all those. But with that sandbag, you're now able to do a lot of traditional strength training. You're able to work your grip. You're able to do things like weighted step-ups. I'm working with a company overseas out of Ireland. It's called the RAM roller. An amazing piece of equipment because I can do a lot of different traditional strength training with it. And then I have a foam roller when I'm done. It's literally acts as your foam roller when you're done. So, if you have a small budget, I'll lay a couple other real important things out there. A couple dumbbells. If you're going to get dumbbells or kettlebells, if you don't have kettlebell training, I would always say go with a dumbbell because it doesn't require as much specific. You don't have to get used to it as much. You don't really need some formal training to be okay with a dumbbell. So if you're going to get one or the other, I recommend dumbbells, even though I freaking love kettlebells. So a few dumbbells and or kettlebells. Strength bands. I'm a master's coach at Power Systems. Power Systems strength bands are game changing. I do so much work with strength bands and their Versaloops. There's a lot. The reason why I like those is because those two things, because they're really inexpensive, but we can do a lot of things with them. So people that are on a budget, I
saw on your Instagram yesterday.
Yeah, I was working with I train a high school football team around here, and every Saturday I put them to like a 2.5 hour workout, and it's so funny. You got these big, strong guys that can squat 500 pounds and whatnot, but I took them to the hill and all I had was the strength bands. And it's like literally the workout they dread the most. This little rubber band is so dang effective for bulletproofing your body, for improving your running mechanics and your overall hip stability, and talk about our glute medius and all kinds of things that all my runners, I program a ton. Like before every single workout, it doesn't require it, but I like for you to do my VersaLoop warm up, and it's just a simple warm up with the VersaLoop. So those things are good because a lot of people's like, man, I don't have it in the budget to build a good home gym. Man, if you have a couple $100, I'm going to be able to get you so much. Strength bands, VersaLoops, a good sandbag, a plyometric box, or you can use a chair, a bench, a lot of things. You don't really necessarily have to have a box unless you can afford it. That pull-up bar, or just being able to throw a rope over a tree. A pull-up bar is really nice though. Maybe one rope to climb, practice your rope climbing skills. With what I just mentioned right there, you're talking about a couple $100, and you've got, maybe a dumbbell or two. You've got a ton, because so much of it, I love walking into my gym every now and then with, and there's $250,000, well, there's probably $500,000 worth of equipment in there, but really and truly, it's the creativity and the workout design. I'm going to put you, when you log on to the next Yancy Camp workout, you're going to see it's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on here. But then you realize I don't need much to do it. I'm not going to use that much in my gym or at my home. Yes, it's nice to have all that stuff available to you sometimes, but those are some of the things that I highly recommend. We're getting ready to launch a new sandbag at Power Systems in a month or two. And I'm telling you right now, it is going to change the game forever. That's as far as I'll go, but it's going to change the game. It's going to take everything.
It sounds promising.
Oh my gosh, dude. I want to tell you everything, but I'm going to keep it a secret until we launch it. But it's going to be an amazing, amazing sandbag. So I love working with my Power Systems team. They're great. I have the, I'm the worst about getting off track. We'll stay on your fitness question for now. You got anything else you want to ask me in the world of fitness equipment?
No, I think you answered the question, because the point of this question was for people who are maybe like see it as an obstacle before they start, working out. Some people can be like afraid, or it's outside of the comfort zone. They don't want to get membership. They don't know what to do. So yeah, they can reach out to you. I think the best training equipment from my perspective, or from my point of view, would be to invest into Yancy Camp. And like you mentioned, you provide all these videos there, which are really inspiring, and works all your body with just a few movements, and with sand bell, for example, or something like that, sand disc.
Yeah, what we're going to do is provide you with a lot for a little. I mean, I give you as much as I can possibly give you for $29 a month. And a couple more things I wanted to add. Another very important tool, a very inexpensive tool that I try to get all my clients to, especially all my elite clients, because I think it's a game changer, is I work with a company. You can make your own, but they sell theirs so cheap that it's worth it. A tire drag system. I work with Trail Toes. You can find them on my website, yancycamp.com, and it allows you to quickly, $30-something bucks, and you can go to your tire store, get a free small car tire, and you have a tire drag system. It's got a really nice dampener on it, so it makes for a smooth ride. But I'm a firm believer that I work a lot of tire drags into my clients' almost weekly routine. It's low impact. It's got a lot of benefit at providing extra strength training for the legs. I think it can actually go help with people that live in areas that don't have a lot of mountains and hills to climb, or they don't have access to an incline treadmill. It actually strengthens the legs. It's not going to mimic actually climbing a mountain, but it's going to help strengthen the legs. And this is the big game changer. I'm a firm believer that it helps improve running mechanics. So many people, if I took you to a running clinic and you and I put 1,000 people through our running clinic, 9 out of 10 they're gonna overstride, and they're hill strikers. Dragging that lightweight tire, with some easy running, is going to quickly eliminate that overstride, because you're pulling a little weight, and people are much more inclined to hit on their forefoot with their foot more under their center of gravity, so that they're hitting under balance, and they're getting rid of that heel strike where they're stomping on the brakes every single stride. So vertical oscillation goes down, injuries go down. So there's a lot of benefits to working in tire drag. So yeah, I've got a lot of clients out there that have got the Trail Toes tire drag system. And like I said, you can go out and build your own, but I don't know how. Oh, Vincent, he doesn't make much money on these, man, because he sells a lot of them, and he's been able to keep them really inexpensive, and it's just a great low impact, effective way to get in some of your, like, I'll have clients do bricks with them, or follow up a workout with maybe a 20 minute tire drag. So yeah, man, I love the tire drag. I love my rams. The rams are great because you have a strength training tool and a foam roller, sandbags, pull-up bar. You better have a damn good pair of running shoes, man.
So what kind of shoes are your favorite?
Well,
now you have Altra there.
Yep.
Pretty new brand and pretty favorite.
Yeah, I did a lot of work with Richard Diaz over the years, and he's helped. I mean, my running mechanics are better than they've ever been at 47. I'm actually teaching some clinics now myself, and what happens is when you get into that natural forefoot, for some people midfoot, but in the perfect world, the forefoot strike. Altras are zero drop, and it's much more conducive to that forefoot running than having those stiletto heels, I like to call them, that those 8 to 15 mil drop that you see in so many shoes. I mean, that's like, you feel like once you've gotten used to the zero drop, you feel like you're standing in heels, and and that's
don't have to tell me.
We could do a whole nother podcast on shoes and running, man. So I won't take us down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I love my Altras. I've got about probably 10 pair. My good friend Brandon Owens, he loves them as well, and he sends me free pair. He'll send me pairs every now and then, and I just love the Altras.
Yeah, that's great. So because I was just discussing this with somebody recently, and now I got used to zero drop over the years so much that if I have a shoe that is like 3 millimeters drop,
and that's okay, I
can not only feel it, but it really affects me, like if I wear it for a longer time.
Here's something that's very important. I'll just spend 30 seconds on this, because a lot of times people are like, they may be running in a 12 mil shoe, and because they heard Yancy and Daniel talk about zero drop, they'll drop what they're doing literally and go buy, and that's where you're getting into trouble, people. You got to slowly acclimate, because what's going to happen is you're going to actually, once you start making that good forefoot strike and you get in the zero drop, and you're actually start to improve your running mechanics, you're going to have a lot of soreness in your calves, your posterior chain down through your soleus and your Achilles and your foot fascia, because you've actually turned that on like it needs to be turned on, and you're going to have some soreness, and there's nothing wrong there. So what you want to do is, get your pair of Altras and go out and run, do my ABCD drill that I have on yancycamp.com. Do that maybe a half a mile a day, and then go do your regular running that you do, and you just slowly get yourself off of the ridiculous overstride heel striking where you're stomping on the brakes. You slowly come down from that, and eventually, maybe this time next year, you're logging all your miles and zero drop, and your running mechanics are in a better place. Just don't go cold turkey on me, because you're gonna injure yourself, because you've literally turned off that posterior chain in many aspects, and you've got to get back to natural running. I'll summarize like this: if we did a running clinic tomorrow, and I put everybody on video, I had them run by in their shoes, say 5K race pace. Don't tell them a thing. Let's say we're on concrete, on a concrete sidewalk. I take their shoes off, have them run by me at 5K pace on video without their shoes on. I compare the two videos. Guess what? They've improved 80% of the problem. They improved without you or I telling them a single thing. I'll save the rest for another podcast. It's not debatable. Just the brain knows how to run right for the most part, but shoes have been a part of the problem over the years. So anyway.
Yeah, that's an excellent advice. I actually also tell people to, when you think about zero drop shoes or transitioning into them, and that is like a little addition that I want to add, is I tell people to actually maybe invest in your casual shoes to be zero drop.
Brilliant.
So these shoes you wear you wear them like several hours a day, and if you compare it to running in zero drop when you're starting, you may be running it half an hour or 1 hour a day. Like, this is nothing compared to wearing them 6 hours, 7, 8 hours a day, and walking is much lower impact compared to
it's brilliant.
Running, so.
Yeah, you'll get to where, like, I can't stand to put on, if I'm walking or running, if I get caught in like a 10 mil shoe, I can't stand it. It feels terrible. So, yeah, exactly. And I shouldn't, I don't want people to think that I'm a big proponent of barefoot running, but because we've evolved, people, it's important to wear shoes to protect our feet. I get that. And I'm a big proponent of running with shoes on. But what can happen with adding a little bit of barefoot running on a controlled surface? Let's say some of the new turf fields like we have, or a nice controlled grass field, soccer field or something, football field. You're actually turn that whole foot back on. The arch, it's really nice to not have all that arch support always. The arch was not really, you actually increase the strength of the arch and your toe splay and everything, just the ankle stability, everything just gets a little more turned on when we improve the running mechanics and getting out there and running barefoot sometimes. Just a little bit. Doing your ABC drills barefoot, maybe up and down the football field 4 or 5 times, in an environment where you're not going to be stepping on rocks and glass and roots and whatnot to hurt your feet. So it's a great thing to work in your routine every now and then.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, Yancy, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And like you mentioned, we could have been, or we could sit here and talk for another 2-3 hours.
Let me ask you this.
But unfortunately,
let me ask this: how many people?
Yeah, unfortunately,
how many people, like your listeners? Most of your listeners, where do they? You get most of your listeners overseas in Europe?
Actually, in the U.S.
All right. Well, I'm sure you have a few more listeners overseas, but I always like to add in a little bit of mental conditioning before we close. I want to encourage all your listeners, Daniel, to, when they wake up in the morning, it's going to be Monday morning, I want them to, or whatever day you wake up after you listen to this podcast when it launches, I'm going to challenge you to hit your pause button. I actually physically hit something. Touch your pause button and say, I'm going to have a great day today. I'm going to be present and focused and in the moment. I'm going to maximize my opportunities. I'm going to serve others versus focusing on always serving myself. I'm going to do everything I can to maximize my opportunities. And what can I do today? This is my motto for the year. What can I do today to light up the planet, to play my part in lighting up the planet? I want you to live big, love big, serve big, laugh big, and listen, you dominate the day. It's for a whole nother podcast, but that's my little summary. When you put your head on the pillow at night, you woke up and you hit the pause button and you reminded yourself, and 15 times throughout the day, you got to remind yourself again to do that. And when you put your head on the pillow at night, ask yourself, how did I do today? How did today go? Was I more focused and present on everything every opportunity and situation that was in front of me today? Was I a little better at maximizing that opportunity in that situation? Did I lift other people, the people around me? Did I put wind underneath their wings and lift them up? Or was I dragging the situation down? There's so many examples of that, but grade yourself at the end of the night. And if you want to be better the next day, then darn sure be better the next day. So that's my little mental conditioning post for all your listeners, buddy.
Thank you very much, and I really love it. I really appreciate it. And the funny thing is actually that we got together in this podcast episode about training, but I think the main message or the best part of this was this closing statement.
Yeah, man. I greatly appreciate you reaching out, and if you and I can provide a little bit of self-help for ourselves and for anybody that listens, that's what I'm good friends with Dr. Laura Pence. She's a certified therapist, and I always say, we always laugh, I'm not a professional psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, or counselor, but you know what we can be, Daniel? We can be a professional listener. Be our best version of a professional servant. We can provide as much love as we can possibly provide. We can provide as much empathy that we can possibly provide. We don't have to have any certifications. Those people that I named, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the therapists, the counselors, they're professionals at what they do. We don't have to be we can't be at their level, but there's a lot of things we can do at our own professional level to serve a lot of people, man. And because there's so many people, the reason why I say this, because it's my duty to say that, because so many people have served me over the years, and I'm a much more passionate person about wanting all those people that served me and going through cancer and surviving cancer and, all my journeys and those people that reached out. I have to play my part now to pass on the passion that they gave me. I got to bring the passion and energy and serve others with the same passion and energy that they served me, and we'll be better when you and I do that. And then somebody down the line will start doing it themselves. Our kids will do it, and we are changing the face. We are creating a movement with every time we talk, every time we do a podcast, every time we decide to light up the planet that day. We're making a difference, dude. So thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to possibly serve a few people. It's what you're doing with your podcast, man. So keep doing the good work.
Thank you very much, Yancy, and you have a great day.
All right, buddy. Rock and roll.
Thank you for listening, guys. And Yancy, as he mentioned in the podcast, agreed to share with you an amazing opportunity, which is like 1 month of free training from him. And the way how you get the training is by visiting the URL that is written in the show notes. And if you cannot see the show notes, is by visiting the website www.yancycamp.com. That is Yancy as YANCYCAMP.com/1, written as a number, not as a word. So that is /1-month-free. So once more, it's yancycamp.com/1-month-free. And you will get 1 month of free training, so you can test the waters and probably even get amazing results. Having said that, if you are after amazing results and you want to recomposition your body, you want to achieve better health and better performance, I'm here to help you. So don't be afraid to reach out to me, and together we will work on improving your goals. I know that I wanted, when I started, to get and figure out everything by myself. But I know that I could have saved a lot of time and learned much more by working with somebody who is in the industry, who knows what he is doing. And if you like the podcast, please like, share, subscribe, and share it with people that you care about that might benefit from listening to it. And I hope to see you next time.